Hey everyone, Rene here. In my last video, I made some comments and the double flywheel also causes a little bit higher wow and flutter. That sparked some controversy and discussion in the comment section. In today's video, I'm hopefully going to show you what I meant with those comments. And if I'm incorrect, I will apologize and I will do that in the end of this video. Now, the comments that I made had to do with the transports and that, from my own personal experience, the KX880 had better mechanical specs due to the single direct drive driven capstan motor versus the double capstan in the KX1100. Both decks are largely identical. The transports are almost identical as well. They use the same direct drive motor in both. Just the 1100 has two capstans. The 800 has one capstan. Aside from the placement from the assist motor, which on the 880 sits around here, on the 1100 sits around here, they are largely the same. And the 1100 also has an extra pinch roller, of course. Both the decks are freshly serviced. I think the best way to test my statement is this. We're going to use the test tape to set a baseline. Measure wow and flutter from this one, measure wow and flutter from this one. And we're going to write those numbers down. As I'm positive the single capstan transport has less wow and flutter, I'm going to take the second flywheel out of the 1100. Also, I'm going to disable the pinch roller, basically making it a single capstan 3-head transport. Now, some people are going to say, if the wow and flutter of the 1100 is higher than the 880, there's something wrong with it. And, that may very well be the case. But by removing the second capstan, the wow and flutter difference should either be removed or just a little higher than the 880. But improving the wow and flutter by a measurable amount does prove my point that the second flywheel in this one increases the wow and flutter on these transports. Play. 0.034%. You can see it here. So if we divide that by 2, because this is playback after recording on the same deck, divide by 2, 0.02%. I have another tape. Let me grab that. Same kind of cassette. Also recorded on an 880. This one is 0.03%. So even different. This one was also recorded on this deck, so tape does matter. Let me verify this tape on this deck to see what kind of reading we can get. Okay. Just for verification purposes, we're going to use the best one. This one, as you can see, 0.07. Okay, that's the same as this tape. Is it 0.0? Yeah, that's roughly the same. So these two tapes both give 0.07, 0.08 on this deck and 0.03, 0.04 on this deck. So this deck, the 880, is much better than the 1100. So what I'm going to try to do now is modify the 1100 to a single capstan. And we're going to test again. Now I'm going to switch my work table around a little bit, switch the cameras around a little bit, so you'll see it from a different angle. And we're back. No, we're not, because I need a screwdriver. I think you've all seen me do this before. So we're going to take the transport out. Transport. As you can see, no, you can't. Let me zoom in. As you can see, this is basically the quote-unquote normal Sankyo transport. One flywheel, two flywheel, and a belt in the middle. The assist motor, the reel motor, the tape detection switches, and the assist switches. And maybe I should take the other transport from the 880 out so you can have a look. I'll do that when I've taken this one out, so we can compare side by side what the differences are. Let me first remove this transport, and then we can do a side by side comparison. And there we have the transport. Let me make some more room. Now let me grab the 880 transport so we can have a closer look. Here we have the two transports, both Sankyo, almost identical. This is the 1100, this is the 880. Now, if we turn them around a little bit and get the wires out of the way. Do you remember what I said about the assist motor? On the 1100s, the assist motor sits here. On the 880, it sits here. There is only one flywheel on the 880 with a direct drive motor. On the 1100s, we have two flywheels and the direct drive motor. The base is exactly the same. Reel motors are the same, everything's the same. The only difference, major difference, is the extra flywheel, the belt, and then of course here we have a pinch roller extra. And because this is a two-head, it doesn't have the pinch roller. So what I'm going to do now is take the 1100, I'll put this one aside, take the 1100 and take this flywheel out, take the belt out, and I will deactivate the pinch roller so that we basically have a three-head deck without the flywheel, so just a direct drive. Now, and I see that this still has the original belt as well. So it's not an aftermarket belt problem. Get another screwdriver. So now we basically have a transport with one flywheel. Let me take this one out for a second so I can reach. Okay. Now this pinch roller needs to be disabled. And I think the easiest way to do this is to get the pressure off the spring. Because if I take this pinch roller off, I'm going to have to align the whole tape path again with the M300. I can grab that later, but basically it's a plate that you put on there, and the tape guides and the heads are then all aligned, and then you can also adjust the head height, but I would rather not because it's a bit of a hassle. What I'm going to do is probably take the spring tension off behind there. Let's see if we can do this. Yeah. So as you can see, I hope, now when the head comes up, where are you? There. This pinch roller stays down. So that's basically disabled. So then what happens, if you put the tape in and it starts playing, it only uses the head and this pinch roller. It doesn't have the flywheel anymore, it doesn't have the capstan anymore, it doesn't have the belt anymore, and the pinch roller. So that's all disabled. The rest is all the same. So now we're going to put it back into the deck and we're going to do another test. Right? So the transport is back in. I'm not going to put the front back on. I'm not going to put the cassette holder back. I hope everybody agrees that the cassette holder and the front panel are not contributing to wow and flutter. If you do think that, let me know, and no, we'll put it back, all of it together, and run another test. But this should be good now. Let me get some power, I'll hook up the test equipment, and we'll do a test. The transport is back in the deck. Let's do a quick test. What did we see on this one? 0.1 something, if I recall correctly. So let's do a quick test. 0.072, 0.07. So on this tape it has improved. Let's rewind it a little bit. .1. Let's calm down a little bit. Yeah, and I still don't like that tape. Okay, 0.07 is the best I saw. My own little tape. 0.65, and that was 0.07. So without the pinch roller and without the capstan, we have an improvement of 0.02%, something like that. You know, I think that that's proven my point. I don't know what else to say. You know, and I've seen this, you know, over the years when I was still working for Kenwood and Yamaha and all those places. By the way, I worked for an independent workshop, and we had contracts with a lot of big manufacturers. So we had these machines come in from different manufacturers. Yamaha used the same transport part, slightly different, but also the Sankyo. Kenwood used them in the 770, the 880, 990, and the 1100. 770 were reverse decks. 990 was a reverse deck, if I recall. I haven't seen one in a while. But in particular, the 880 and the 1100s, I've seen a lot of these, but I've always noticed that the wow and flutter of the 1100s was higher than the 880, as you can see now, right? So use a tape, you know, stick it in there, and because you have so many machines passing on your desk, you know, month after month after month, not all the same, but different ones. But you get them in large enough quantity, so you start to notice these things. And I always noticed that the 1100 had a higher wow and flutter than the 880. So I think I've shown you guys enough, right? And it doesn't mean that the 1100 is a bad machine, not at all. You know, in all honesty, 0.02% difference in wow and flutter. I don't believe anyone will notice that. You will notice from 0.05 and then you jump to the new machines that have 0.15 or worse. You know, you will definitely hear the difference, but you won't hear the difference between the 880 and the 1100. And to reiterate why I said, you know, buy the 880 over the 1100s. The 1100s is basically a 3-head deck, and the 3-head decks are more costly. Not necessarily worse, you know, but they're because it's 3-head deck, they cost a lot more. While mechanically, and this is, you know, something I have to say, mechanically the 880 performs better than the 1100s. The wow and flutter is measurable lower on the 880. And I hope I've shown you that. Okay, take the transport out, put the cassette holder back in. I'm gonna put it all back together. By the way, if you enjoyed this video and if you learned something new or just found it interesting, please hit the subscribe button. You know, that would help me. So thank you very much. And while I'm at it, I may as well oil and clean the capstan again. Let's not forget the spring from the pinch roller. Okay, that's the spring for the pinch roller. Back in its original position. Don't forget the oil washers. I think that's it. May as well put a new belt in it. Let's put it back into the deck. Wires. Front panel. Yeah. By the way, the 3 screws that go in here, those are flats. Because if you put the wrong screws in here, then the cover won't go on anymore. Oh no, because I have to readjust the speed. Put some power into it. Speed adjustment. Oh, let me put my screen recording on. That's on. Click. Wow and flutter back to 0.8. 0.9. So that's, as I said, you know, there is a small difference. I put the speed back to where it belongs. Because the belt in the extra flywheel causes drag. Okay, that's close enough. Wow and flutter 0.08, sometimes 9. Okay, let's try my own test tape. Here we go. Wow and flutter 0.056. You know, you saw me oil the capstan. You saw me measure the difference. You know, I don't know what to tell you. You know, the extra flywheel and the belt cause a little bit higher wow and flutter. You know, it's okay. That's done. That's done. Put the cover back on. And then I am done for tonight. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.